Hi there, this is Abhisha of 2nd MA English Literature. In this video, let's have a short discussion on post-colonialism in general and Orientalism as put forward by Edward Said in particular. To begin with, let's uncover the real meaning behind the term post-colonialism. The root word for the term post-colonialism is colonialism, and it is derived from the Latin word colonia. If we analyze the term in its fundamental level, the word colonia indicates land or landed estates. The modern derivative term of colonia is colony. Meanwhile, the term post-colonialism also has its prefix, post. Basically, the term post signifies something that happens after a time period suggested by the root word. Therefore, we normally get into an assumption that post-colonialism means after colonialism. But in a way, it is partially incorrect because within the field of post-colonial studies, after colonialism, post-colonialism doesn't mean after the end of colonialism. Instead, it means after the beginning of colonialism. In order to make it even more smooth, let me share the example from Indian context. India got independence on August 15, 1947 from Britishers, right? So can we say that 1947 is the end of colonialism in India? Yeah, it's right in one aspect that on August 15, 1947, the political governance of British monarch in India came to an end. But if we think over it in another aspect, we could find that India is still under the influence of British rule and is following the colonial legacies. India still uses the parliamentary system of democracy, which is very much a part of colonial legacy. And not only in the field of economics but also in the field of culture. So we can't say that 1947 is the end of colonialism in India. Therefore, post-colonialism is the sum total of all the various social, political, economic and cultural changes that is brought due to the impact of colonialism. In the field of post-colonial theory, Edward Said, Homi Bhabha, Gayatri Chakravarti Spivak are the iconic figures. They are often regarded as the holy trinity of post-colonialism. In regard with my topic, I am going to move with Edward Said and his remarkable contribution in the field of post-colonial theory. Edward Said explored the term post-colonialism in depth in his work titled Orientalism. Edward Said was born in British-occupied Palestine in 1935 and he died in America in 2003. He did his doctorate on Joseph Conrad. He was a professor at Columbia University, where he taught till the end of his life. He was also a music critic, public intellectual, scholar of comparative literature, and an advocate of Palestine cause. The book Orientalism was published in 1978. It's a critique on the depiction of Orients by the Occidents. Said's Orientalism enables the political, cultural, and social dominance of the West not just during colonial times but also in the present. Said's view on Orientalism was highly influential, at the same time very controversial too. Said begins by explaining how Orientalism is defined within three different contexts. The first one is Orientalism represents the According to Said, occurrence of Orientalism as a binary way of thinking can be traced even in early Greek tragedies of the 5th century, where the Orient was imagined not just as a land of Asia, but as the other of the European self. The kind of discourse which uses this binary way of thinking has been prevalent in Europe for more than 1,000 years, but only during the high point of European colonialism, this discourse, this binary way of thinking, enjoyed special attention and evolved itself into an academic discipline. According to Said, it was exactly when European powers started militarily conquering the Orient during the late 18th century, Orientalism emerged in Europe as an academic discipline. In order to brighten up, Said points out, when Napoleon Bonaparte led a military expedition to Egypt in 1798, he was not only accompanied by an army of soldiers, but also by an army of scholars and scientists who transformed the occupied territory into an object of scientific inquiry and a field of systematic knowledge. So this kind of systematic knowledge gathering, which was made possible largely because of the military conquest and the control of Orient, inaugurated an academic fields like Egyptology, Egyptology in the 19th century. All these became a part of the broader umbrella called Oriental Studies. And Oriental Studies by the end of 19th century had become an integral part of the Western academia. Soon, huge amount of documents related to Oriental Studies were produced and got acknowledged in Europe as the most authentic way of knowing about the Orient. One of the most interesting facts is that the British philosopher James Mill wrote the history of India just by consulting the available documents on India that were available in England. So without ever visiting India or without ever knowing a single Indian language, he wrote the history of India. From this we can easily wind up that what he wrote is not based on first-hand knowledge. This is how the Occidents framed the Orients. Thus, Orients become a projection of those aspects of the Occidents. Moreover, all this happens due to the power structure. Europe has the power to write, and whatever was said and written about the Orient was powerful enough not just to circulate among the academic circles, but also made its place in the popular domain. This image represents how the other is displaced in its framing in the museums of the West and the ways in which cultures and histories are put in display in museums. Michael Foucault pointed out that the discourse that is generated, circulated, and ratified by the institution of the powerful is the discourse which gains acceptance as the truth. Therefore, Orientalism is Western style of hegemony, of dominating, restructuring, and having authority over Orient. Antonio Gramsci, while theorizing how power works, he talks about two modes in which power works. One is dominus. Dominus is something like the state which functions through the army, police, etc. But most of the times he suggests that power works through hegemony. For instance, hegemony is like when the powerful group or the dominant group, they create an illusion of concern on the part of submissive group of people. So the submissive group willingly accept the power structure. And Gramsci says that Orientalism relies on this sort of hegemony, the hegemonic self-presentation of Europe as rational and superior. Aladdin marks the first real departure in a full-length animated film from a traditional European fairy tales to those of other culture. In this case, it refers to Arab world. In 1993, it won Oscar in the categories of Best Song for the song titled A Whole New World. These pictures prove how much binary between us versus them is used in the contemporary political landscape. Said's Orientalism beautifully unfolds the power knowledge that connects the discourse of Orientalism with the military and economic domination of the Orient by Europe. Said's main purpose in this book is not just to reveal this connection but to disrupt it. He says that Orientals had its own history, people, and imagination, and that must be acknowledged so that one doesn't continue thinking that Orient is just a pure construct made by the Occident. Thus, Said and his seminal text, Orientalism, in a way inaugurated the field of post-colonial theory. Thank you for listening.